Most people think discipline is loud, but the truth is forged in silence, in the hours when no one is watching, in the choices no one applauds, in the pain no one understands. Welcome to Still Rise, the place where we uncover the silent path to self-mastery. If you're ready to go beyond motivation into the raw, quiet world where discipline is truly built, you're in the right place. Like, share, subscribe, because this story might just change the way you look at your life. The storm within there was once a young man who always seemed to be at war with himself, not a war of weapons, but of excuses, of weakness, of comfort. That man's name, Jocko Willink. Before the world knew his name, before he became the face of discipline, before his voice became the morning alarm. Of millions, he was just a kid growing up in a small town in Connecticut. Angry, rebellious, loud, he didn't fit in, didn't follow rules. And that's exactly what made him dangerous, not to others, but to himself. The fire starter, Jocko's father, was strict. Not in the typical way. He didn't yell. He didn't punish with rage. His punishment was silence, disappointment. Young Jocko hated that silence more than any beating. He found his outlet in chaos, breaking rules, pushing limits, starting fights, anything to feel alive. Anything to drown the voice inside that whispered, "You're wasting your life." But that voice wouldn't stop. One day it shouted louder than ever before. He was 17, caught in a fight that left another boy bleeding. It wasn't the violence that scared him. It was the look on his mother's face. Not anger, just sorrow. That was the first silent moment that changed him. Silence of the SEALs. He joined the military not because he was disciplined, but because he wasn't. The Navy SEALs weren't impressed by toughness or arrogance. They stripped you down to your soul, and they did it in silence. Bud-S training didn't scream at you. It whispered, "You're not strong enough. You're not ready." Jocko failed in his mind every day, but that's where the seeds of discipline were planted. 4:30 a.m., wake-ups, cold ocean swims, sand in every crack of his skin. No applause, no praise, just the quiet choice every day to not quit. War is a mirror rack. Ramadi Jocko wasn't just a soldier now, he was a leader. And leadership wasn't about barking orders, it was about example. An example came down to one thing. Do you do what you say you will do when no one is watching? He saw men break. He saw men rise. And the difference wasn't talent, it was self-discipline. He learned that fear lives loud in the mind, but courage that lives in silence. They returned back home. Jocko didn't stop waking up at 4:30 a.m., not for the camera, not for the world, but because his war never ended. The war was now within. The war against the snooze button.
Yes.
The war against comfort. The war against weakness. He started to speak. It's not to be famous, but to serve. Discipline equals freedom, he said. And people listened, not because he yelled, but because he lived it. The morning that changed the world, Jocko posted a photo. It's just his watch. 4:30 a.m., no caption, and the world responded. Thousands began rising early, running, training, writing, not for a reward, but for the feeling of being in control. Because discipline and silence is the first victory of every great day. The forge of the mind, how Jocko Willink turned pain into power. The morning sun crept over the East Coast horizon, casting its pale glow across the naval base. But Jocko Willink was already on mile 5 of his 10-mile run. To the average person, this would seem like punishment, exhaustion, sweat, pain. But to Jocko, it was liberation. His silence wasn't just about avoiding noise, it was about cutting the distractions. In that early morning quiet, while the world slept, Jocko was forging discipline. Jocko's SEAL training had taught him that the enemy was not just out there, it was inside. The lazy voice that whispered, "Sleep in," the comforting thought, "You've done enough." That was the true enemy. And if you let it speak even for a moment, it wins. So he silenced it, not with shouting, not with motivation, but with action. He was building something deeper: mental armor. The psychology of the grind. Jocko wasn't born with superhuman willpower. What made him different was how he responded to adversity. As a kid, he struggled like everyone else. He got into fights, broke rules, and hated being told what to do. But in the chaos, he realized something profound. If I can control myself, I can control my world. That moment was a spark, a realization. He began doing things no one asked him to do, waking up earlier than his parents, cleaning his room without being told, reading military books at age 13. Each small act of self-discipline was a vote toward the person he wanted to become. This wasn't motivation, this was strategy, the silent kind. Pain is the path. Pain wasn't something Jocko feared. It was his compass. Something felt uncomfortable, difficult, or even humiliating. It usually meant he was going the right way. In Bud's Navy SEAL Hell Week, while others crumbled from sleep deprivation and freezing water, Jocko smiled. Why? Because he knew pain was his ally. He had trained for this. Silence had made him strong. He didn't need music to pump him up, didn't need cheers from a crowd. He needed one thing, his mission. The mission was always the same: become the man who does what others won't. The discipline timeline, Jocko's philosophy, wasn't built overnight. It was a timeline of small, unglamorous decisions. Here's how it looked. 4:30 a.m. wake up. Not just to get ahead, but to practice mastery over the weakest part of himself, the morning mind. Daily physical training, push-ups, pull-ups, rucks to test the connection between body and mind. Reading and writing, to learn from history, from failure, from men like Marcus Aurelius and Miyamoto Musashi. Reflection and journaling. He called it debriefing. A tool to scan for weaknesses. Accountability. No blaming. No excuses. Radical ownership of every decision. This was his silent war. No one clapped. No one filmed it. But it changed everything. Discipline equals freedom. The truth behind the phrase, many misunderstood this phrase. They thought it meant military rigidity, but Jocko saw it differently. Discipline meant choice. If you controlled your habits, you controlled your outcomes. Discipline meant peace. When you weren't ruled by cravings or weakness, you were free. Discipline meant clarity. You didn't waste time negotiating with yourself. Freedom wasn't the ability to do whatever you want. Freedom was the ability to not be ruled by weakness. The lonely road, Jocko once said, don't expect anyone to understand your grind. Why? Because real discipline is lonely. You'll miss parties. You'll say no to comfort. You'll go unnoticed. And that's the point. The discipline journey is walked in silence. You don't get applause for waking up early. No one sees the meals you skip or the temptations you resist. But these silent decisions build something permanent, character. The mind, Jocko, treated his mind like a gym. Every time he ignored weakness, he got mentally stronger. Every time he leaned into discomfort, he leveled up. He built mental reps the same way he built biceps repetition. Consistency. Progressive overload. Temptation equals mental deadlift. Pain equals mental squat. Silence equals mental cardio. The world trains for comfort. Jocko trained for chaos. And that's why he thrived in it. Leadership starts with self. Before Jocko ever led a SEAL team, he had to lead himself. He knew this. You can't lead others if you can't control yourself. His team trusted him not because he talked tough, but because they saw his discipline. He was the first to wake, last to rest, and never made excuses. His silence was his strength. He told his team, this man is dangerous but in control. Modern distractions versus ancient mindset. In today's world, distractions are everywhere. Social media, notifications, noise. But Jocko adopted an ancient mindset in a modern age. He modeled men like Epictetus, who believed we should never be ruled by externals. Musashi, who trained to defeat fear itself. Marcus Aurelius, who journaled in silence to lead with clarity. Jocko fused these teachings into his day. He turned his home into a dojo, his routines into rituals, his mornings into a proving ground. He wasn't trying to impress, he was trying to improve. Discipline in the shadows. Jocko didn't need validation. His victories were silent. Saying no to junk food in an empty room. Finishing a workout when no one watched. Reading philosophy while others scrolled. TikTok. That's where discipline lives, in the shadows. Not on Instagram, not in motivational reels, but in choices no one sees. That's what makes it powerful. The echo of silence. The story closes with Jocko returning from a brutal workout. He walks into his dark home. No applause. No cameras. He sits at a desk, writes one line in his journal. Today, I won the battle again. And that's what discipline really is. Not glory, not perfection, just quiet, consistent victory. In silence, wake up in the dark, the world slept. But Jocko was awake. Not just awake, alive. At 4:30 a.m., long before the world stirred, his day had already begun. The silence of the morning wasn't empty. It was full of power. No phone buzzing, no distractions. Just the iron discipline of choice. Jocko didn't need applause. He didn't need company. He needed results. He tied his boots the same way every day. The ritual wasn't for style. It was a contract with himself. Every lace pulled tight was a reminder. Control your body, and you control your mind. This was how warriors were made. The echo of iron in the gym, there was no music, just the clank of metal. Every rep was a question. Will you quit? And every breath was the answer. No, he trained not to impress. He trained for war, both the outer and the inner one. In silence, muscles burned, and discipline forged its roots deeper. Pain was fuel, doubt a ghost he silenced under the bar. The iron didn't lie, it revealed. Discipline over motivation, motivation is fleeting, he once said in a podcast. Discipline that's eternal. Jocko believed in doing the work when no one was watching. Because that's when the truth of a person emerged. The secret was no secret, just relentless repetition. And a refusal to negotiate with weakness. No snooze button, no shortcuts, just the grind. Day in, day out. The silent path wasn't glamorous, but it was real. Letters never sent behind his hardened exterior. There were journals, private reflections, brutally honest. He wrote not for likes or validation, but to face himself. Pages filled with missed opportunities, unfinished thoughts, brutal self-accountability. This was where discipline took root. Not in public, but in the shadows. Accountability, he wrote, is the willingness to face your own lies in silence. It's the code. Jocko had a simple personal code. Number 1, wake up early. Number 2, move your body. Number 3, do something hard daily. Number 4, face the uncomfortable. Number 5, never make excuses. But these weren't just steps. They were vows. And every broken vow echoed in his mind until it was redeemed with action. He didn't aim for perfection, aimed for presence. Presence in the pain, in the effort, in the silence. War within. During deployments in Iraq, silence was a threat. Every quiet moment could hide an ambush. But later in civilian life, that same silence became his ally. Combat taught me to act despite fear, he said, but silence taught me to act despite doubt. The war outside had ended, but the war inside continued, and Jocko welcomed it. Leading without words. Leadership, Jocko believed, wasn't loud. It wasn't shouting commands. It was doing the hard things first. He showed up before everyone, worked harder than anyone, and left only when the job was done. No speeches, just example. Discipline is contagious, but only when lived, not preached. Extreme ownership failures, he owned them. No blaming others, no pointing fingers, just radical self-responsibility. If a mission failed, he asked, what did I miss? If a team struggled, he asked, what did I fail to communicate? This mindset extended to life. Woke up late? Your fault. Skipped training? Your fault. Angry? Your responsibility. The moment you stop blaming is the moment you start building. Solitude isn't isolation. People mistook his silence for detachment. But it was focus. Jocko wasn't escaping. He was refining. He spent hours alone, not to hide, but to sharpen. Reading, writing, thinking. Silence is not the absence of noise, he wrote. It's the presence of clarity. Discipline isn't built in crowds. It's born in quiet rooms. The discipline legacy, years past. His daughter asked him one day, Dad, why do you always wake up early? He smiled and said, because one day, I won't be here. But if I teach you discipline, I'll still be with you. Jocko didn't just live disciplined, he passed it on, not through lectures, but through example. His silence was his sermon. His actions were his legacy. And the world, though noisy, couldn't help but listen. Primal and Aaron. He wanted to scream, but he didn't. He stood there silent, letting the chill reset his mind. Outside, Jocko was already journaling. 6:30 a.m., writing in silence. Why do we journal? Aaron asked. To observe our minds, Jocko said. You can't fix what you don't understand. Aaron stared at the blank page. Then he wrote one line. I have been my own obstacle. 7 a.m., fueling the machine. Jocko cooked a high-protein breakfast. No distractions. No scrolling. No wasted movement. Aaron noticed the precision of every action. How Jocko flipped the eggs, cleaned the skillet, wiped the counter, all as if it were combat preparation. Every act is a chance to strengthen discipline, Jocko said. 8 a.m. tactical planning. Aaron expected some grand lecture, but Jocko handed him a notebook. Today, you plan your mission. Every hour must have a purpose. Start with your weaknesses. Aaron hesitated. I'm terrible at managing time. Good, that's where we begin. 10 a.m., the Digital Detox. Jocko made Aaron delete every app that consumed time. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. You control your tools, or they control you, he said. Aaron resisted. You're not deleting them forever. You're choosing silence over noise for now. And so, the icons disappeared. What remained was stillness. And in that stillness, Aaron heard his own thoughts for the first time in months. 12 p.m. Learning from the greats. Jocko handed Aaron a book, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. This man ruled an empire, yet remained disciplined in his thoughts. Read the highlighted passages. Aaron, read, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Jocko looked at him. That's the blueprint. Master the inner world, and the outer one will follow. 2 p.m., a walk in silence. They walked a forest trail. Still, no phones, no talking. Aaron began to feel peace, a strange kind he hadn't known since childhood. Thoughts started settling. Ideas emerged. Confidence bloomed. Discipline doesn't shout, Jocko finally said. It whispers through actions, through consistency, through silence. Aaron nodded. 4 p.m. the breaking point. Jocko challenged Aaron to do something uncomfortable. Deliver a speech to a group of strangers about his biggest failure. Aaron froze. I can't. You can, Jocko said. Discipline means doing what you fear, not because you're fearless, but because it must be done. With trembling hands, Aaron spoke to 10 strangers about wasting years in comfort, hiding from responsibility. When he finished, no one clapped. But someone said, thank you. That was enough. 6 p.m. the debrief back at Jocko's house. The day concluded with reflection. Aaron was asked, what did you learn today? He replied, discipline isn't about pain, it's about purpose. Jocko smiled, and silence. Aaron whispered, that's where I found myself. Morning fog, iron mind, the silence of dawn was broken only by the whisper of boots on gravel. Jocko Willink's breath created tiny clouds in the cool morning air as he stepped into the world long before it stirred awake. He had already completed his workout, sweat drying on his back, muscles aching from discipline, not fatigue. He wasn't chasing motivation. It buried it long ago. What he followed was duty. Jocko knew something that most people missed. Discipline doesn't arrive in fire and fury. It creeps in, quietly. In the hours no one sees. In choices no one applauds. And this morning, like every other, was another quiet war. Discipline versus motivation, he once told a young soldier. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline is forever. This young man had talent, but he was inconsistent, showing up late, skipping workouts when it rained. He said he was waiting for motivation to strike. Jocko didn't laugh. He didn't scold. He gave the soldier a book, blank pages. Write every time you show up. That's your motivation, not how you feel, what you do. The pages began to fill. And over time, that soldier's mind transformed. The blank pages had become bricks in a mental fortress. The echo of the old self. There's a voice inside us all, the lazy one, the comfortable one. It tells you to sleep a little more, to try tomorrow, to eat that cake now, and regret later. Jocko hears it too, but he answers it with steel, not today. He teaches that discipline is not the absence of doubt or desire, it is the power to silence them. Every morning, his old self tries to resurface, and every morning he buries it again under cold water and hard reps. Ownership is discipline. During a combat mission in Ramadi, Iraq, a miscommunication resulted in a tragic friendly fire incident. Jocko, as the team leader, stood in front of his superiors, his men, and took full responsibility. He could have pointed fingers, but instead he said, "It was my fault." That moment wasn't just leadership. It was ultimate discipline, owning every result, good or bad. Jocko teaches that the most disciplined minds are the ones that take responsibility, even for things that don't seem their fault. Because blame is easy. Ownership is growth. Rituals of the relentless every morning. 4:30 a.m. Wake up. Work out. Journal. Every evening. Reflect. Read. Plan. People often ask Jocko, "Don't you ever get tired?" His reply, "Of course I do. That's why I don't negotiate with myself." He has turned rituals into weapons. And each one slices away weakness. His day is a series of battles, and he wins them not by chance, but by choice. Teaching without speaking, Jocko once trained a group of new SEAL candidates. One of them, a rebellious 19-year-old, resisted rules and refused mentorship. He claimed discipline was brainwashing. Jocko didn't argue. He didn't scold. He invited the boy to train with him every day for a month. No lectures, no sermons, but just early wake-ups, impossible workouts, cold showers, quiet meals. By the end of the month, the boy stopped talking, just started doing. Discipline had seeped in through silence. The discipline of saying no. People think discipline is always about doing more, but Jocko knows it's also about restraint. Saying no to distractions, no to ego, no to shortcuts. He once turned down a lucrative opportunity to join a reality TV show about Navy SEALs. It promised money, exposure, fame, but it smelled of vanity. So he declined. He chose the harder path, less glamorous, more aligned. True discipline isn't just in action, it's in decisions. In saying no when the world wants you to say yes. Discipline and legacy. Jocko thinks in decades. He asks himself, what will my children remember about me, my abs or my actions? He wants to be remembered not as a man of strength, but of consistency. Not a legend, but an example. Discipline to him is not self-improvement, it's service. When you show up daily for your body, your family, your craft, you teach others without speaking, you become a lighthouse in the fog of comfort. From chaos to clarity, during a mission gone wrong, chaos broke out. Alarms, smoke, confusion. Everyone panicked, except Jocko. He remained calm, scanning the room, issuing precise orders. Afterward, someone asked, "How did you stay so clear in chaos?" His answer, "Discipline in peace prepares you for discipline in war." What you do in silence determines how you act in storms. The quiet path forward. Now, older and away from active duty, Jocko still rises at 4:30 a.m., still lifts, still writes. He no longer needs the battlefield. His war is internal, and he fights it every day, in podcasts, in books, in the quiet choices no one sees. Reminds us, you don't need a uniform or a spotlight to be disciplined. You just need silence and the will to walk through it. The edge of the storm. Discipline when no one watches. The sky was slate gray over the Pacific as Jocko stood on the cliff's edge near his California home. The ocean stretched endlessly, thrashing with quiet violence. This was his ritual, to stand here before sunrise, when the world was asleep, and ask himself one question: are you still who you say you are? There were no cameras, no podcast, no audience, just silence. This part of the story is about what happens when no one is watching, when motivation is gone, when the body aches, when the excuses are louder than reason. The breaking point after decades of rising at 4:30 a.m., after years of war, commanding SEAL teams, mentoring others, and preaching the gospel of discipline. Even Jocko wasn't immune to fatigue. His joints hurt. The surgeries had piled up. He had nothing to prove to anyone, and yet he still rose, still trained, still stood in the storm. He wasn't chasing fame or proving himself. He was battling a far more dangerous enemy: comfort. In this part of his life, discipline wasn't about winning. It was about not losing himself. Silence is where the fight begins. Most people think discipline is loud. The shouting, it's the iron clanging, the motivational speeches. But true discipline is the moment you wake up and no one would know if you stayed in bed and you dan tea. It's the plate of food in front of you, filled with things you crave, and you walk away. It's the moment you're disrespected and you don't respond with rage. These are silent decisions, micro victories. They're invisible, but they build who you are. Discipline in family. As a father, Jocko knew discipline wasn't just about war or workouts. It was about leading by example. One evening, his daughter cried during a training run. She was young, tired, and frustrated. He slowed down, knelt beside her, and said quietly, "It's okay to cry. It's not okay to quit. We don't quit. We finish, even if we walk." She didn't understand then, but she finished. Years later, when life hit her hard, she remembered. This is how discipline echoes silently into the next generation. The unseen repetitions. Jocko spoke once about brushing his teeth, not as a health tip, but as a mindset. Discipline isn't in the big battles. It's brushing your teeth even when you're tired. It's folding your clothes right. It's showing up again. Why does this matter? Because how you do anything is how you do everything. When you allow sloppiness in small things, you invite chaos into the bigger ones. Dark days and the decision to keep going. There were days Jocko didn't want to go on. Days the injuries flared. Days he questioned the purpose. But in those moments, he remembered Ramadi, the faces of fallen brothers, the cost of weakness. He didn't feel motivated. He chose action anyway. That's the secret he wanted the world to know. Discipline isn't about feeling ready. It's about doing what you said you'd do no matter what. Silence is the arena. There's a strange moment during every 4:30 a.m. wake-up. The alarm rings. The world is dark. Your bed is warm. And in that split second, your old self begs you to stay. Your stronger self, silent, waits for you to move. Every day, Jocko defeated his weaker self in that moment. Not with words, but with action. It wasn't loud, but it was the greatest fight of the day. The cold showers and iron will. He stood under cold showers each morning, not to build toughness, but to remind himself. Comfort is a liar. Pain is a teacher. It shocked his system every single day, but it reset his mind. He didn't want to do it, but he did. Every time. That is the discipline that rewires your soul. Leading without praise, Jocko's company grew. Books sold. Podcasts boomed. Yet he remained in the shadows. No flashy cars. No bragging. Let others shine taught them how to lead, how to take responsibility, how to win without noise. Leadership, he said, was about ownership. Don't blame the world. Own your world. And fix it. The midnight question. Sometimes at night, he'd sit alone, journal in hand, and ask the same thing. Did I keep my promise to myself today? That's what discipline is. Not public success, but private accountability. You can lie to the world, but not to yourself. Legacy of silence. In the end, Jocko knew this. People would remember his voice, his books, his leadership, but the real legacy was the man who kept his promises in silence. The father who woke up early, the warrior who never stopped training, the leader who didn't preach but lived it. Discipline wasn't about the noise. It was built in silence. Every single day. The unseen war. Jocko sat alone in a small cabin, miles away from civilization. The war outside was nothing compared to the war inside. This was the final chapter, his quietest battle, yet the most defining. Every morning still began at 4:30 a.m. No alarms, no excuses, no applause. Only discipline. But this morning felt different. For the first time in months, he paused before stepping onto the cold floor. He stared at the ceiling, hearing echoes of every step he had taken, the voices of doubt, the silence of failure, the resistance of the world. And yet he had risen every time, stood up, slowly, deliberately, not out of habit, but out of choice. Because that is what discipline becomes in the end, a choice you keep making long after motivation has died. Flashback, the darkest night. There was a night in Fallujah he never forgot. It was pitch black. Gunfire echoed from distant alleys. A young Marine had panicked, frozen. Jocko had pulled him back to cover, shouting, "You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your level of training." That phrase echoed every single day of his civilian life. No camera, no rank, no uniform, only self-leadership. The silent code, he created a system that no one could see, a notebook he never showed anyone, a checklist that was never shared. Painful reps at 5 a.m. in a garage gym where only the barbell saw his tears. Discipline wasn't a show, it was a code. And this code, once internalized, replaces all distractions. Became unstoppable not because he never failed, but because he never stopped. He embraced silence, solitude, and structure like sacred rituals. The final test, a publisher once offered him millions to ghostwrite a success memoir that dramatized his journey. Twisting truth into entertainment, Jocko refused. Success isn't viral, he said. It's internal. And so he returned to his silent life training, coaching, leading. And one day a letter arrived from a former Navy SEAL candidate he had mentored. It read, "You saved me without ever trying to impress me. You led me by example. It taught me more than any words ever could." Jocko smiled, not out of pride, but because discipline had multiplied in silence. What we learn from this discipline is not about what you show the world. It's about what you demand from yourself when no one's watching. It doesn't begin with motivation. It begins with quiet decisions daily, painful and unseen. You don't build discipline by announcing it. You build it by returning to it every single day, in silence. And the truth is, discipline is the only freedom you will ever earn. If this story stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Start your journey today, not with noise, but with a choice. Subscribe to StillRise for more.com powerful stories. Like this video if you felt it. Comment, "I choose discipline in silence." Turn on the bell. We rise slowly, but we rise.